I did not mention name, image, and likeness because that's been reserved by the Division I Board of Directors. And on May 9th, you saw a statement from the board that I think was helpful. The question is, what's happened as a result? We need clarity from the NCAA National Office on what's happening and what will happen under the NCAA Division I Board of Directors directive. It's a difficult issue, subject to the onset of state laws that came into effect last July, and since that time, some of those same states have pulled back from those laws because it's in the state's competitive interest to do so. It's exactly what we warned about dating back to 2019, that a patchwork of state laws was the most ineffective way to approach name, image, and likeness. And here's our view. We need a clear, enforceable standard to support national championship caliber competition and national championships themselves, like the College World Series, the Final Four, and the College Football Playoff National Championship, and every other national championship. So there is a connection and a common basis for competition. Our student athletes, we just had a Student Athlete Leadership Council meeting. They asked us for clarity and for uniformity and for institutional support of their name, image, and likeness efforts. A national standard would mean that high school juniors and seniors and their families don't have to sort through dozens of different state laws or institutional policies where state laws don't exist. It's an unfair way to treat young people making a college decision. And a common standard would allow them to have clarity around the rules and policies that govern their own decision-making and activity. Our football coaches were unanimous and unequivocal at our spring meetings when they discussed name, image, and likeness, that booster activity should be completely removed from the recruiting aspect of their work. Our young people deserve consumer protection to ensure commitments they make do not create long-term entanglements and points of exploitation that reduce or eliminate their future earning potential. And lastly on this list for now, there's an absence of oversight for those described as agents. These aren't agents as we've come to know them over time, or NIL businesses that approach young people and families directly with offers with no transparency. That gap needs to be addressed, and the unregulated marketplace calls for action. The NCAA is limited in its ability to govern this space. To put state universities in conflict with their own state laws is an impossibility, and litigation limits the extent to which the NCAA can actually act. And that's why the continuing identification of Congress as the opportunity to set a national standard remains important. We did have conversations that if there's not a national standard, we need to explore if we can have common state laws among our 11 current states, eventually to be 12, to support healthy name, image, and likeness activities.
Greg, with what's happened in the country the last few months, in addition to it being an election year, do you think that that makes it even more difficult for Congress to do something to make a clear, enforceable NIL policy?
Go back, Richard, to March, and I made a list in a meeting of matters present, a war in Ukraine, the economy, Build Back Better that was introduced and not moved, and the differences that exist in Congress. And we have a midterm election coming up, and things that have happened over recent weeks and months have just added to that. The reality was, when I had that conversation in March, I wasn't looking to necessarily this Congress to be the solution, just because of the timing. We've had conversations with leaders from both sides of the aisles, and we'll continue to do so, because regardless of what's happened recently or what happens with the election, we need a bipartisan solution for this national concept to move forward. And if we don't, then we're going to be left not simply creating conference rules. We're going to have to deal with state laws that vary in our region, and that was actually part of our conversation in Destin as well, but the focus will remain on a national solution, and Congress is the venue for that option.
I'm just curious about the NIL. I know we were talking about Super Conference. Can you talk about how that has helped us acquire the title of Super Conference, and how you see that progressing in the SEC?
I think we, the Southeastern Conference, were a super conference before name, image, and likeness. In fact, I provided that clever answer a few times over the last 7 or 8 years. There are any number of good stories. You know, I was up the road here an hour in Athens, Georgia, when Auburn gymnastics competed and Suni Lee was cheered by everyone in Stegman Coliseum. You don't get that much between rivals when they're cheering for an individual student athlete. I'll state, Karis Jackson talked about a Bojangles deal when he was in Destin with our leadership group, talking about, I think it was 45 steps to making a Bojangles biscuit that he engaged in on social media. Olivia Dunn at LSU is one of the good stories, very prepared, very ready for that. Those are the activities that we thought would be present and should be present, allow young people to build the brands. And I think there are many more stories beyond just what you read in recruiting that are positive. But one of the concerns up front was that we not do this state by state. We need uniformity. That feeds in to our ability to have national competition during the regular season and support national championships. And so the notion of some oversight, transparency, regulation of the market, I think, is exactly what helps everyone. And I'm convinced, regulated or unregulated, we can do well, but I think the unregulated market creates a set of problems for the people involved, whether it's young people and their families trying to make decisions, the potential for long-term life entanglements and deals that aren't understood and evaluated, the lack of support, the taxation that comes. But we've also allowed it to enter into the recruiting space in a really weird way, and I think that needs to be made healthier than it is right now.
Given some of the public comments from coaches about the effect of NIL on recruiting and the classes, is there a feeling from the conference office that member institutions are abiding by the spirit of NIL rules? And how's the conference office supporting educating athletic departments on best practices when it comes to NIL?
The issue is, are they abiding by their state laws? So whether it's spirit or not spirit, the issue that goes back when we're in consultation is, are you following the laws of your state, or in the past, one circumstance, an executive order in our footprint. It is uncomfortable. It is a new dynamic, and we're going to have to manage through that discomfort. I don't believe everything I read. You're great writers. You're great at what you do. But I don't believe everything I read has the depth of information or the depth of analysis, because what I've not read is the points of concern where young people have lost opportunities or promises and commitments haven't been fulfilled. I look forward to reading those types of analyses. But the focus from the conference office is on providing guidance back to the states that have to provide the information. And we provide educational information. It's tough when that changes routinely through states. And in our footprint, there are 11 different state laws. And then you have questions coming in about the laws or lack of laws in effect in every other state as well.